on the record, the time is 2:09 p.m. This is the beginning of media unit 4.
So it's my understanding that Mr. Furman sent you an email denying the decision to reassign Kuether was made with an punitive intent. Do you recall that?
I had posed to Mr. Furman, actually I had asked that he memorialize a conversation that we had had,
Mm-hmm.
and in that memorialization he basically said that he was told by Dr. Posley to what was the word here? Can I go back to the question?
So it's my understanding that Mr. Furman sent you an email denying the decision to reassign Kuether was made with punitive intent. Do you recall that?
I don't recall him denying punitive intent. I'm sorry, I don't recall.
Great. So I asked Mr. Furman under oath the following question. Why do you deny the decision to reassign Kuether was made with punitive intent? And he answered, I am sure this was referencing that it was not meant to be an adverse employment decision, that Dr. Posley was concerned with the work that the department and probably felt like Ms. Kuether needed to just work elsewhere since it apparently wasn't working out in that department, but it wasn't meant to demote her or berate her or anything of that nature. Is that a true statement?
Vindictive form, foundation.
Mr. Furman communicated to me in writing, in response to my question to him about the nature of the reassignment, that it was that reassignment would allow Dr. Kuether to reset.
Okay, and that's what he told you that Dr. Posley told him, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and he also said that Dr. Kuether's behavior was causing the curriculum and instruction department to be ineffective. Is that a true allegation that he made?
Yes.
Okay. Based on your investigation of the facts, do you believe those allegations to be accurate?
Vindictive form.
I did not investigate whether or not Dr. Kuether had engaged in any inappropriate behavior in the area.
Okay. Well, did you investigate the curriculum and instruction? Let's say did you have understanding that there was an issue with a curriculum product that needed to be in place but was not in place and was going to make the MPS out of compliance with the state standards?
Vindictive form of question, vague, ambiguous.
I don't know if I knew that detail, but what was shared with me was that there was a technology issue that was forecasted, and Dr. Kuether was raising attention to it in an attempt to get in front of that problem.
Okay. And did she explain to you whether or not she had raised that issue before?
I believe she shared with me that she had raised that concern previously.
And was that concern raised to Dr. Holliday or somebody else?
Oh, I don't recall.
Okay. About how long had she previously raised that objection? Concern?
I don't recall that.
Okay. So, based on your, well, let me put it this, was there an issue raised with the Thursday folder, to your knowledge, with Dr. Saffold?
Yes, Dr. Kuether shared that with me.
What was the nature of that issue?
My recollection is that there were errors involved in it.
Okay, and who created those errors?
I don't recall.
Okay. I asked Mr. Furman under oath if he believed that the involuntary transfer would have affected Dr. Kuether's career prospects going forward. Do you believe that her involuntary transfer would have affected her career prospects going forward?
Yes.
Why?
I think that when individuals are told on one day to clean out their office the next and to report out to a school, that knowledge tends to follow that individual, and that can, I think, tainted that individual in the organization.
Is that a form of retaliation to your knowledge?
Check the form, foundation.
I would argue that the personnel transaction involved Dr. Kuether was.
Okay, and but based on your experience, both as the director and previous, do you believe that this reassignment was retaliatory?
I do believe this reassignment was retaliatory.
Okay. Well, and sorry, what my broader question is does this fit into what you understand as the broader pattern of retaliation at MPS?
Oh, I'm gonna check the foundation form.
I believe these type of reassignments can be a form of retaliation.
Okay. So when I asked Mr. Furman why did he believe that the involuntary reassignment would not hurt Dr. Kuether's career, he answered that it was still a high-level school-based position. I mean, there's no negative connotation to school-based administrator positions versus centrally based administrator positions. Do you understand that statement?
I understand the statement.
Okay. Do you believe that that's an accurate statement?
I would disagree with the statement.
Why would you disagree with that statement?
I don't.
I'm gonna check the foundation.
What did he say? It was a high standing.
He says it was still a high-level school-based position. Is that part accurate?
I would disagree with it.
Check the foundation.
Okay, and that's partially because there was no position, correct?
Check the foundation. Also argumentative. That's assumes facts, not evidence.
Yeah, it's very hard for me to evaluate the standing or level of that position when I could not discern what the position was.
Okay. And then there's a statement that says there's no negative connotation to the school-based administrator position versus centrally based administrator positions. Is that an accurate statement based on your understanding?
Check the foundation. Cause of speculation.
I would disagree with that statement.
Why?
I don't think the organization observes those types of transactions in that way.
Okay, and as the deputy superintendent, Calvin Furman would be aware of that, correct?
Check the foundation.
And
Cause of speculation.
I would have presumed him to be aware of that.
Okay. Then you also added another qualification that this there is a negative connotation to an MPS employee moving from the central services to a school. Is that also accurate?
Yes, I believe I believe that is the case.
Okay. And is it true that even though someone's rate of pay might stay the same, the fact that they've been moved from central services to a school assignment, is that considered a demotion?
Check the foundation.
Even though from a pay perspective, I believe staff perceive that to be a demotion.
Okay, and so that would also be the person's co-workers would perceive that as a demotion, is that right?
Check the call for speculation.
I can say the statement. Can you repeat
And
it?
so that would also be the person's coworkers would receive that as a demotion, is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And the person's supervisors would also perceive that as a demotion based on your understanding, correct?
Same objection causes speculation.
Yes.
Okay. And you have personal knowledge of these kind of perceptions? Or how do you form that conclusion?
Yes, by my experience in the organization.
Okay. Now, are you aware of whether or not a license is required to work at a high school?
Objection, form, vague.
Yeah, I'm gonna join that objection. In what capacity?
Can I ask in what capacity?
Well, I guess let me ask that. Well, can you repeat the question? Thank you.
Now, are you aware of whether or not a license is required to work at a high school?
Same objection.
It would depend on the position, is my understanding.
Okay. And based on your investigation of Dr. Kuether's complaint, do you have any knowledge of whether or not she was licensed to work at a high school after she was involuntarily transferred?
In the absence of any clarity on what the position was, I wouldn't be able to speculate as to what licensure would be required.
Okay. And, okay. And were you even able to determine what Dr. Kuether's job duties were at Washington High School?
If that information became available, I believe it was only shared, I believe, after I had brought this to the attention of the board, is my recollection.
Okay. So, between January, I guess in the month of January, while you're investigating this, did you speak to any management about, in the course of this investigation, other than Calvin Furman or Dr. Cotton?
Therese Freiberg.
Therese Freiberg, okay. And that was to achieve clarity on what Dr. Kuether's job roles, or for some other reason?
I had approached Ms. Freiberg to gain an understanding of what this personnel transaction was.
Okay. And you were not successful in that endeavor, correct?
I did not gain further clarity.
Okay. Do you recall discussing Dr. Kuether's licensure issues with her after she was involuntarily transferred?
I recall that she shared with me that during the meeting in which she was told she was being placed on special assignment, that she raised a question to the individuals in that meeting that, well, the perception was that it was going to be in some administrative level, and I believe that Dr. Kuether shared, I don't have a license in that type of a position, I believe is what was shared with me.
Okay. Did Dr. Kuether last very long at her special assignment at Washington High School, to your knowledge?
Object to form, question vague.
My recollection is that she ended up taking a leave sometime subsequent to that move.
Okay. And how did you learn of that?
I believe she shared that with me.
Okay. Did she tell you at the time, or was that afterwards?
I don't recall if it was at the time or after.
Okay, but you guys were meeting every day at that time, correct?
I was frequently checking in with Dr. Kuether.
And
correct.
working on this issue full time?
Up certainly until the 21st of January, yes.
Okay. Now, during those conversations that you had with Dr. Kuether, do you recall if what her emotional level was?
Distressed.
Okay, and those are through all those conversations?
Can you say that again?
Sure. Was she distressed throughout the entirety of her conversations with you?
Yes.
Okay. What was she distressed about?
That this was a retaliatory act, and that the avenues that she had pursued were not remedying the action. And additionally, that the conduct of the staff there at Washington was not receptive to her.
Okay. How did that make you feel at that time?
Not good.
Why not?
Subsequent to the 21st, because I wholly expected my involvement to offer a remedy. Prior to that, just an empathy to an individual in a tough spot.
Okay. After the 21st, how did you feel about your investigation of Dr. Kuether?
Yeah, that whatever action I had taken had not remedied it.
Okay. Did you believe, after the 21st, did you believe that your position as a whistleblower investigator was tenable?
I questioned it.
Okay. Did you communicate that questions with anybody?
I know that I did, but I couldn't recall who.
Okay, but did you communicate that to the board directly?
Not after the 21st, but in the session where I had said if both what I perceived to be a form of retaliation through this type of movement and also the 2 lanes of accountability that I mentioned earlier, if that's going to be allowed to persist, then the whistleblower policy, you can, to use the expression, shovel it.
Okay. And then you continued, though, after that date to investigate whistleblower complaints, right?
Yes.
Why?
I still had the policy obligation to do so.
Okay, but you knew that the outcome of your investigation wasn't related to the outcome of what the board action, correct?
I'm going to object the form. Misstated prior testimony is argumentative.
And vague.
Sure. The results of your report didn't apparently affect the board's decision, did it?
Objective vague as to this one incident.
Can you say that one more time?
Sure. The effect of your report on Dr. Kuether to the board did not affect the board's conduct, did it?
It did not improve the circumstance for Dr. Kuether.
Okay. Did it improve the circumstances for whistleblowers more broadly?
I would argue it did not.
Okay. And were your reporting of Mr. Holliday's complaints Mr. Furman's complaints to the board, did that change your opinion on the whistleblower policy?
Did Mr. Furman's whistleblower complaint to me that I brought to the board's attention for the purpose of an external investigator?
Correct.
And that outcome, can you repeat the other half?
Did that change your opinion of the whistleblower policy?
Yes.
Okay. After the 21st, did you investigate whistleblower complaints in a different manner?
There was some process improvement that was done.
What does that mean?
Just an attempt to standardize the process, and also a change in practice in that, absent the direct involvement of an executive officer on a matter, that the matter would be brought to the executive officer over the area in which the concern was raised to allow them to remedy the problem.
So the change is that you were bypassed the board now and went straight to management? Is that a fair description?
It wasn't to bypass the board as it was to allow the management over the area in which the concern was raised, and their non-involvement in the concern allowed them the opportunity to cure the problem.
Okay. Doesn't that increase the risk of whistleblower retaliation?
Object to the form of question calls for speculation.
I don't know that it does. I don't know that it does.
Okay, so taking Dr. Kuether's situation for an example, how would, if she had reported this after the 21st, how would you have investigated her complaint differently?
Given the involvement of Dr. Posey, I wouldn't have done it any differently. I would have brought it to the board.
Okay. That's because Dr. Posley was personally involved.
And as an executive officer, yes.
Okay. So, and I just want to be clear because maybe I misunderstood you. You're saying that if an executive officer is not involved, then you bring it to to that non-executive officer's attention before going to the board, or something else?
So after the 21st, I made the decision that in order to allow an executive officer that oversees an area in which I have found, through my investigation, an issue that requires curing,
Mm-hmm.
to give that executive officer, so long as they're not involved, the opportunity to cure it.
Okay. So if Dr. Posley had not been involved in involuntarily reassigning, or in fact responsible for involuntarily reassigning Dr. Kuether, then you would have gone to Dr. Posley and told him about the complaint. Is that right?
I'm going to object. Ms. Dave's prior testimony assumes facts, is argumentative, and is incomplete hypothetical.
That is the process that I would follow subsequent to that 21st.
Are whistleblowers aware of that policy shift?
Object to the form calls for speculation.
Subsequent to the 21st, that is communicated to people who approach me in that capacity.
Did you communicate that to Teresa Folleron?
I believe so.
Okay. What management personnel did you communicate with about Teresa Folleron's complaint?
Dr. Posley. Dr. Posley is the individual with whom I recall.
Okay. Based on that situation with Teresa Folleron, do you believe that your new policy is working or effective?
Using the case of the MPSU matter,
Mm-hmm.
it's debatable.
Okay. Have you communicated to the board Teresa Folleron's concerns?
No.
Why not?
They were communicated to Dr. Posley, and he was given the opportunity to cure them.
Okay. When was that?
I don't recall.
About how long ago was it?
I believe within the past year.
Okay. So you, based on your knowledge of the MPSU fraud investigation, do you believe that Dr. Posley took the opportunity to cure the complaints that you raised to him?
Object to the form foundation calls for speculation.
Attempts were made. I don't know how effective they were.
What attempts?
I think follow-up conversations about the findings that I had reached.
Okay. Do you believe that removing Teresa Folleron's hard drives from her work computer was part of that response?
I don't know.
would that be an appropriate action to cure the situation or something else?
Inject foundation.
Without knowing any of the details, that doesn't appear to be a good response.
Okay. So based on your knowledge, again, of the MPSU fraud to date, do you believe that Dr. Posley took you up on your opportunity to cure?
Not in an effective way.
Okay. Do you believe that he tried to cure the problem?
Inject foundation.
I think he directed others to fix it.
Okay. And do you believe that those directions were wholehearted or sincere?
Object. Cause speculation, lack of foundation.
I believe the direction was wholehearted and sincere.
Okay. Who did he direct to solve these problems?
I don't recall.
Okay. Michael Harris, for example?
If not directly, indirectly.
Okay. And who is Michael Harris, if you know?
I believe he's the Senior Director of Talent Management.
You're going to have to tell me what talent management is if you can.
I believe that is one of the arms within Human Resources responsible for, I think, recruitment and hiring.
Okay. Okay, so based on your experience with MPSU fraud investigation, would you change your policy of notifying executive management of the whistleblower complaints?
I have wrestled with what an appropriate solution in this space is.
Why?
Because a clear solution that balances all the interests, including those of the complainants who come forward. I've had a hard time determining the way that is an effective one.
Okay. Do you believe that a whistleblower complaint at MPS has a realistic chance of resolution if Dr. Posley is involved in the allegation?
I'm going to object cause of speculation, argumentative, and lack of foundation.
I mean, it would be on a case by case to be sure.
Okay. What about Calvin Furman's complaints?
Can you repeat the previous question then?
Oh, sure. Do you believe that a whistleblower complaint at MPS has a realistic chance of resolution if Dr. Posley is involved in the allegation?
Within the context of Calvin Furman's whistleblower complaint is
Complaints. Because there's two of them, correct?
correct.
Okay.
I don't have strong confidence.
Okay. Let's talk about the second complaint that Mr. Furman made. Okay? And
Can you number them for me? So
sure, 1 and 2. One is the general complaint about Dr. Posley's leadership and exit survey and management style, and describing Dr. Posley as reactive.
So what I had in terms of whistleblower complaint from Mr. Furman was twofold, but it was involving the toxicity under Marla Bernal,
Okay.
and then a concern about a inappropriate relationship with Marla Bernal by Dr. Posley.
Okay. Was there a, I guess to put it another way, there's a document that Calvin Furman drafted called an exit interview. Did you receive that document?
I did, yes.
Okay. Is that is that a complaining document or something else?
He complains in this document, but it is separate from the whistleblower complaint that he brought to me.
Okay. So you didn't investigate anything in that letter there?
Not as the result of having received this document.
Okay. Did you share that letter with the board at any time?
I believe the board, I did not, but I believe that it was shared with the board.
Okay.
And
What
Ben,
was?
can you identify the record for the exhibit number for the record? So
We're talking about Exhibit 2, isn't that right?
Yes.
Okay.
Just want to make sure we can find it later when we're reading through it.
Great. So, now I just want to be clear again, because I feel like I may have asked this before, but I must have been confused. You've got this exit survey. He comes to your office. Does he give you 2 additional documents with 2 additional complaints? Does he orally tell you these complaints? How is this 2 complaints communicated to you?
Yeah, he provided for me a document in which what I consider twofold were the complaints that I described.
Okay, so now I understand. So, let's just start with the toxic environment under Director Brunat. What was the allegations of toxicity there?
Yeah, non-supportive of staff, again, sort of a hyper scrutiny, micromanaging, and just an otherwise unhealthy environment.
And that's fair to say that those are the same allegations that were made against Chief Holliday, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And at that time, they were both peers, correct? Chiefs directly reporting to Superintendent Posley.
At the time of each individual's concerns, yes.
I appreciate that. Okay. So, to be clear, the parallel is between when the complaints happened, not necessarily one moment in time.
Correct.
Okay. And the parallels are fair based on your understanding, correct?
Certainly based on the title and their placement in the organization.
Okay. And again, the accusations of toxicity as well.
Yes.
And micromanagement as well?
Yes.
Okay. Now, it's my understanding that Miss, and how do you pronounce her last name?
Brunat.
Brunat was the only chief that reported directly to Superintendent Posley.
Chick Foundation.
I believe that's correct. At the time, the other chiefs would have reported through the deputy superintendent. I believe that's correct.
Okay. And so, do you know why Miss Brunat had unmediated access to the superintendent?
Check the foundation, cause speculation.
I don't know.
Okay. Now, there's a second allegation against of improper relationship. Is that right?
Yes.
What was the nature of that allegation?
Just that either through favoritism or access or really anything under those 2 umbrellas, that it was divisive to and not conducive to a good team environment with the rest of the colleagues.
Okay, why was Director or Chief Brunat enjoying such favorable treatment?
Check foundation, cause speculation.
I don't know.
Okay, what was the allegation made by Mr. Furman?
That there was an inappropriate relationship. It was not characterized any further, just that under the employee handbook there is a non-fraternization language that says that there should not be any inappropriate relationship that can lead to sort of the challenges that happen on a team when there's that level of favoritism and access and what have you.
Okay, and did you understand that relationship at that time to be warmer than that of ordinary friendship?
Objective form foundation.
No, I wouldn't say that.
Okay, how did you understand the relationship at that time?
Just broad access to Dr. Posley.
Okay. So he didn't give the reasons for the access. He just said that she was enjoying undue access. Is that accurate?
I'm going to check form. This states prior testimony.
Um,
Assumes facts. Argumentative.
Can you repeat the question?
Okay, so he didn't give the reasons for the access, he just stated she was enjoying undue access, is that accurate?
That is correct.
Okay. And what steps, if any, did you take to investigate these allegations?
So that was part of what was handed over to Miriam Horowitz as the external investigator when I had asked the board to allow me to, or to lobby the board to bring in an external investigator to review that concern.
Okay. What was the result of Miriam Horowitz's findings?
I don't know that she investigated them. I don't know.
Well, you saw the report, correct?
Yes.
Okay, how is it after seeing the report you're not aware of whether or not she investigated the accusations?
I don't know to what extent that she did.
Okay, did she make any conclusions?
I don't recall seeing any.
Check so vague.
Oops.
Okay. Did she recommend any action?
I believe the recommendation in the report was to demote Chief Bernal.
Why?
Church foundation, calls for speculation.
Based on her investigative findings about the toxicity underneath Chief Bernal.
Okay. And that's in distinction from the, not the findings, but the outcome of Robin Peterson's investigation and Dr. Holliday, correct?
Can you repeat that?
And that's in distinction from not the findings, but the outcome of Robin Peterson's investigation with Dr. Holliday, correct?
Both were demoted. Is that the distinction you're talking about?
Okay, but you are aware that Marla Brunei was demoted in as a direct result of the outcome of the Miriam Horowitz report, correct?
That's my understanding.
Okay. But you don't have direct knowledge of whether Jeremiah Holliday was demoted as a result of the Robin Patterson report, correct?
I don't have that. That's an inference that I've made based on the temporal proximity to my having raised that in front of the board and the subsequent.
Right, but and what we're talking about is you're raising to the board in January of 2021, not the Peterson report, which comes out the previous year.
Correct.
Okay. Because as we understand it, you and I